Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video on The Flash Season 9. Today we're going to be doing my trailer breakdown for episode 10. This trailer is insane. We are going back to the year 2000 as Barry finds himself back there along with none other than Matt Letcher's Reverse Flash, aka Eobard Thawne. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future DCTV videos later this year. Okay, so first things first, if you haven't checked out my review of last night's episode, the video is up on the channel. You can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch that video. It is a full deep dive into the episode. Obviously, the best thing about the episode was Stephen Amell returned as Arrow, and I totally freak out about it in the video, so go check it out. But for now, let's go ahead and talk about this trailer. So this is the first episode of the final graphic novel for The Flash. This is episode 10. It's titled A New World Part 1, so it's all very much so interlinked, and we know the next 3 episodes after this are also going to be titled the same thing, A New World, and respectively Part 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we can expect big things in this episode, and quite honestly, I'm shocked how much they're doing in this first episode, just based on what we're seeing in this trailer. So let's go ahead and break it down. So the first shot of the trailer, we see Barry, and he is talking on the phone, and we have this really nice close-up of Grant's eyes, and it's very much so just a reaction shot to see what he is basically feeling and his emotions. And so he's on the phone, and in the dialogue he says, "My name's Barry Allen, I'm from the future," and you can tell it's on the phone. So you wonder who he's calling. Like, is there anyone that he can call on the phone and say, "I'm from the future," and they're just gonna act like it's normal and it's not a joke? So I'm not sure, but something crazy is going on here, because we see in the next shot Barry looking at his parents. And so, as I said before, this is set in the year 2000, which is very funny for me because actually that's the year I was born. But as most of you guys know, the year 2000 is when Nora is killed. That's Barry's mum. As you can see her on the screen right here, she's very much alive and well, with Barry's dad, played by John Wesley Shipp and Michelle Harrison respectively. And so this is before her death, and for some reason Barry finds himself back here. We don't know how he's been sent back, but clearly someone is pulling the strings, and I'm going to get into who I think is pulling the strings in just a second. Let's move on. We have another angle, and this is Barry at that phone booth, and he's looking at his parents. Obviously, he's just arrived, and he's in complete shock at seeing them, because traditionally in the past, Barry would be, time traveling himself, and yeah, he would see his parents. But in this case, he's just found himself back in the year 2000, and he doesn't really have any answers as to why he's here right now. So he is in search of answers, and he goes to CCPD, and he sees Joe. So it's good to have Joe back, but this is a younger version of Joe, the version of Joe that is going to take Barry in. And you have to assume that with Barry being back here, there is potential for timeline changes. So I wonder, when Barry gets back to our present day time, is there going to be some small or big changes? You would have to presume there's going to be a few. But anyway, so Joe says to Barry, "Who are you?" Because he obviously doesn't recognize him. He knows young Barry at this point, who is definitely still around. But our Barry is here in the next shot, and he's just his normal self. So clearly Joe is not going to recognize him. But Barry is there pleading to him to try and get some help and figure out what is going on, especially in regards to why he's turned up here. And then in the next shot, I was completely surprised. I knew he was going to come in like episode 10 or 11, but just to see him in the trailer is amazing. And it's in the year 2000, so it's happening, guys. This is the year that Nora is supposed to die, and Barry and Reverse Flash is supposed to go back in time, battle it out, and ultimately that will lead to the death of Nora Allen. So with 4 episodes left, that's what they're teasing on the screen. We have Barry face to face with Reverse Flash, once again played by Matt Letcher, and we knew he was coming, and it makes complete sense because we've been waiting to go back to this night, and I presume this is on that same night, or maybe the night before Nora is supposed to die. And so they are face to face, standing off against each other, and I think they've both been put in this situation. I don't think Reverse Flash is there on purpose as of right now, so I feel like they're both in a similar situation, and that's why they're not killing each other in this episode as of yet, as of what we see in the trailer. But this is clearly in the same kind of streets where Barry used to live with his parents. And during this, Thorne says, "So, what are you doing in the year 2000?" Which confirms the time period, and we know what happens in the year 2000. And the way that he says, "So what are we doing in the year 2000?" makes me believe that, yeah, they're both in that same situation. They've both been brought back in time, and they figured out where they are and what is going on. Clearly something else is controlling them and has sent them back. This leads me to a theory. So we see in the trailer just shortly after the blue crystal, and it's picked up by Joe at some sort of crime scene because Joe has figured out maybe it's important, and so he picks it up. This blue crystal was seen at the end of last season. It was a cliffhanger, and we are all expecting this is to do with Cobalt Blue, who is supposedly coming during this graphic novel, and he will be the main villain, and I believe he is the one orchestrating all of this. And I think the reason he has brought Barry and Thorne together at this point back in time is because potentially this version of Cobalt Blue isn't going to be Eddie Thorne, but is in fact going to be Malcolm Thorne. And in the comics, Malcolm Thorne is actually a relative of Barry. He is his twin brother, but due to a mix-up at the hospital, one of the doctors actually gives Malcolm Thorne, which is what he turns out to be because he's taken in by the Thorne family. He realizes when he's older that he's actually the brother of Barry, and he sort of blames Barry for all of this and the fact that he was unlucky that he had to go with the Thornes and he was never with his true family. And so what happens if this is his revenge? He's bringing them both together because obviously Reverse Flash is a Thorne, and so he wants to maybe get revenge on both of them. I know that they didn't specifically do anything to him, but it's clear that there is some sort of link between them and the person controlling them. So I'm going to say it's quite likely when we see Cobalt Blue, it's not going to be Eddie Thorne, but I believe it'll be Malcolm Thorne, and he could potentially be from another Earth because they established the new multiverse in last night's episode. So we really don't know where he's from, if he's from a different timeline, from a different Earth, or does a Malcolm Thorne actually exist in this time or sometime into the future. We don't know, but we'll have to wait and see as we get into this episode next week. And so another piece of dialogue in the trailer, Barry says, "You brought me here." So I believe he thinks Thorne brought him here on purpose to the year 2000, back to the night that his mum is supposed to be murdered. He obviously has a very strong reason to think that because Thorne is so manipulative, and what's the chances of both of them being there at once? So he's probably just presuming, oh, Thorne is here and somehow he's been able to pull me back in time and bring me here. And also Barry goes on to say that you're here to kill me as a child, and he says that to Thorne. And so I believe that was the original intention of Thorne when he ran back in time originally, and he was facing off against the original timeline Flash. I believe his true target was Barry as a child. So Barry believes he's going to have to stop that because that would be a major timeline change if his younger self was killed in time, because actually it turned out to be, as we saw in Flashpoint during season 3, Nora, Barry's mum, has to die in order to fix things back to the way that we currently see it. Obviously in that original timeline it was different, and maybe Nora wasn't supposed to die. In the timeline that we started and that we're on right now with the TV show, that's the way it's supposed to be. And so I guess Barry's going to be worried about Thorne being here to actually kill him rather than his mum. And it'll be interesting to see if we actually go to the night of his mum's death. Is it going to be this Reverse Flash? Is it going to be a Reverse Flash from another time? You would have to presume it's going to be actually this Reverse Flash we're seeing right here that goes and kills Barry's mum. And is our Barry going to become the original Time Flash? Or basically not become him, but be that same Flash, that figure who chases after Reverse Flash, pulls Barry out of the house. Has the timeline changed so much that it's our Barry and he's not original timeline Flash? He's in fact just the person, the Flash, that goes in and saves Barry and fights against Thorne. Could it be happening in this episode? I think it's highly likely, and we've been expecting this. We knew we would go back to this night once again, but the big difference here is this is being orchestrated by someone else, and that someone else is most likely Cobalt Blue. We have a shot of Barry outside, and he is presumably seeing his parents for the first time as he gets up from the ground. We also see a shot of him lying on the ground, and I believe that's when he first shows up, and he just like rolls into this time period, I guess, you know, through a portal or something. But we have a bunch of shots of a very normal looking Thorn dressed in a normal manner rather than, you know, wearing his costume, and they're outside like some sort of bar. I think that might be O'Shaughnessy's or like a previous version of it. But clearly they're going to have to live the day together to try and figure out what exactly is going on, because I think at first they're going to be pointing fingers at each other 100%, but then they're going to have to potentially work together to try and figure out how to fix things and get back to a normal time period where they're actually from. Again, we don't know what version of Thorn this is, but you can presume maybe in this next shot, this is him running towards Barry's house and maybe going to kill Barry's mum, because again, he's running in front of these very suburban houses that definitely could be the same road that Barry grew up on. But this is really a cool shot. I love this, seeing Reverse Flash running down the street. The whole street is lit up by his red lightning, and I can presume, and you can presume, that Barry is probably trailing him just from behind, because we know he's like a little bit behind him in terms of, if we go back and see the original race between Reverse Flash and original Timeline Flash back during season 1 when we first, and the many times we've seen Nora's death since then. Okay, so let's move on to the next shot. We have Barry's parents actually finding him on the street, and there's a bunch of bystanders in the background who try and figure out what's going on, and I guess they just want to help out. And so at one point they actually go to dinner together, and Barry kind of walks out, and Thorn actually in the trailer says, "It must hurt to not be able to tell them that you are their son." Obviously no one here recognizes him, and I guess they're just trying to be nice to him considering he just like fell out of the sky pretty much. But definitely it's going to be hard for Barry to not tell the truth, and really the question is, will he reveal the truth to them that he is in fact their son? Well, if this is just like a day before Nora is killed, Nora's gonna see that Barry, our Barry from the past, at least with a glimpse. So I think, you know, that will explain why she kind of recognized him in the past when she was dying. So Barry also in the next shot is extremely angry with Thorn, and he threatens to kill him. You can see him trying to phase his hand, and he's ready to stick it right through Thorn, but obviously he is holding back, and you can see it here. But the emotions are truly heightened in this moment, and so they're definitely going to be, you know, butting heads throughout this episode, and I think it's going to be a very interesting dynamic. But the final two shots of the trailer is where it gets amazing and very exciting. I think this whole trailer is just so cool. I'm just really looking forward to this episode. But we have the Flash and Reverse Flash standing off against each other in this moonlit background, and so you can tell this looks exactly like the night that Nora is supposed to die. And so I don't know what has led them to this point, to be on this exact road, and for them to be fully suited up, because they weren't previously suited up in all of this episode, as you can see in the trailer. But with potential timeline changes looming, I'm pretty sure if this is the version of Thorn that is supposed to kill Barry's mum, they're gonna both have to go through with it, and I'm very convinced that this version of Barry is going to replace that original Timeline Flash, and he's going to be the one that you see saving young Barry. Okay, so that does it for this trailer breakdown, guys. Super exciting. Get ready for this episode. It's coming out next Wednesday. And as I said earlier, if you missed my review for last night's episode of The Flash, where we saw the return of Green Arrow, Kid Flash, Diggle, Bloodwork, and much more, plus the return of the multiverse, please be sure to check that out. It's on my channel right now. It's the previous video before this. But anyway, that does it for this video. Please leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed this video. It helps the channel out. Also subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. We're uploading daily right now. And remember, I live stream every Wednesday, so come join me every Wednesday night before The Flash airs. So for now, click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video. But for now, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.
I see red.